Life building here. Although briefly it was headquarters here for the U.S. Army during World War II, where General Dwight D. Eisenhower was stationed on the 7th floor right up here when he received the phone call about Pearl Harbor being attacked. And just past the Tower Life building then, we're going to sail underneath St. Mary Street Bridge here. We're just on the other side. We're going to sail by the International Center to the right of our boat up here. This green building here, which itself used to be home to the San Antonio Public Library from 1968 until 1998, when it then became home to the offices of the North American Free Trade Agreement and Development Bank, as well as the old marina underneath, one of two marinas where my company and the city dock our boats during evenings, which has the Bexar County Courthouse just past it, up ahead of us. This big red building here, which itself was founded up here in 1896, and thus is considered the oldest continuously operating courthouse in all of Texas. It's going to mark where we'll exit Floodgate 4 right up here, where, just as we approach this archway with the green light above it here, you look to either side of the boat. Along these walls, you'll see these metal scrapings. Represents where there is a drawbridge in the water that comes up along with the rest of this flood channel out here during heavy rains and major flooding, so as to make sure that water levels behind us within the main Horseshoe Bend area of the Riverwalk remain the same at all times. And as we enter into this flood channel, it has Floodgate 5, 200 yards to the left of our boat, the top of a waterfall down there, which has the new marina off to the right side of it. And that waterfall down there, it's about 15 feet deep. The Riverwalk continuing on down past that waterfall, alongside the backs of the homes of the King Williams District. Lovely old German neighborhood down there. It's very popular to take a nice leisurely stroll through during the day. And marks where we'll make this turn then into the main channel of the San Antonio River, which itself begins about 4 miles north ahead of our boat at the University of the Incarnate Word, at a small little fountain known as the Blue Hole, which comes out of the ground in the former springs from the Edwards Aquifer. The San Antonio River begins at that Blue Hole, flows down here, and continues on down south behind us for 180 miles until it empties into the Guadalupe River, just about 2 miles from the San Antonio Bay, which then empties into the Gulf of Mexico. My last point, if you look up to the left of the boat, on street level, you'll see a whole bunch of these locks along this one fence right here. This is a popular trend that started in Europe a few years back, but has made its way around the globe to the U.S. over the years. But whenever people do get married along a river, such as along Marriage Island that we saw a few minutes ago, they then walk a lock along the chain link fence by said river and throw the key into the river in order to signify their undying love. Now, originally, the river would flow down here, veer off to our right, up ahead of us to what is now Floodgate 3, go all the way through the Horseshoe Bend and come out behind us, where Floodgate 4 is to this day. To the right of our boat up here, we're going to sail by the Drury Plaza Hotel. This building here used to be the Alamo Bank building, but it became the Drury Plaza last decade and donated the sidewalk to the city that serves as a shortcut between Floodgates 4 and 3 and marks where this all used to be land here. The city dug it up here all the way down to 15 feet deep below us and built this bypass flood channel here in the mid-1920s in response to a flood that our city suffered from on September 9th, 1921. A flood that was so bad that some business leaders at the time even pressured city leaders to pave over the Horseshoe Bend area of the river and turn it into a sewer. And keep in mind, this was before the Riverwalk was even here. Luckily, the San Antonio Conservation Society were founded around this time in 1924 by two women, Rena Maverick Green and Emily Edwards, who themselves went before city commissioners in 1924 and performed of all things a puppet show of the goose that laid the golden eggs, pleading with the city leaders not to kill the goose that would lay the golden eggs of the city of San Antonio. And they were successful in convincing the city leaders not to pave over the Horseshoe Bend area of the river, which is where we're going to re-enter into here, cutting off the north channel, which our regular tour boats don't go up, as it's mostly just residential and office buildings up there. A whole lot more quiet and peaceful, not as much to talk about on these tour boats. But before we do enter back into the Horseshoe Bend area of the river, you look straight to the head of our boat, and above here, you'll see the largest and oldest tree along the entire Riverwalk. Over 9 stories tall and over 300 years old. Known as the Ben Milam cypress tree or Ben Milam sniper tree, in honor of Benjamin Rush Milam, one of the heroes of the Texan Revolution. He was the leader of the Texas rebellious forces for the first half of the Battle of Bear, the final battle of the Texan Revolution before the Battle of the Alamo. It took place from December 5th until December 9th of 1835, and on the third day of battle, December 7th, Benjamin Rush Malin was standing just across the river to the left of our boat over here, where he was shot and killed from what a lot of people said must have been from a sniper from up in the branches of this tree right here. Hence the reason why they call it the Ben Malin Sniper Tree, or Ben Malin Sniper Tree to this day. And it marks where we're rejoining the natural flow of the river then and sailing underneath Floodgate 3 here, which itself comes down from above like a garage door alongside the rest of the split channel, again during heavy rains, so as to make sure the water levels ahead of us remain the same and don't wash out any of the restaurants or businesses along the way. And as I mentioned, this whole flood channel again, all built because of that flood that our city suffered from on September 9th, 1921, where you want a great visual aid of just how bad flooding got here that year. To the left of our boat here, we're going to sail by the Jurien Hotel. This building here became the Jurien in 1999, but originally it was a city public service building in the early 20th century where, for that flood, on September 9th, 1921, floodwaters reached to the top of the first floor windows right here, getting to over 10 feet above street level in the downtown area all around us, for which over 50 people lost their lives and there was millions of dollars in property damage. That's how bad that flood was in 1921. Not the first nor the most recent, but definitely the most significant flood in our city's history, since it's the one that inspired the construction of the flood channel back behind us, as well as the Almost Dam a few miles north to the left of our boat. To the right of our boat here, we're going to sail by the Aztec Theater, itself the last Aztec theater in the entire state of Texas. Founded here in 1926 as a silent movie theater, changed its format over the years, however, fell into hard times, and eventually closed down in the 80s. The city almost tore this building down then until the San Antonio Conservation Society were able to purchase the property, restore, and reopen it a few years back. Right next door to the Mercado Hotel, just past it, which itself used to be home to the L. Frank Saddlery in the early 20th century, which used to provide saddles and harnesses to Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, the famous Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa, and Allied forces during World War I. And with that mark, we'll sail underneath Hockman's Bridge here in front of us, more popularly known though as Salinas Bridge, in honor of the famous Tejano singer Selena Quintanilla Perez, after Jennifer Lopez sat here on this footbridge for a scene during the movie Selena in 1997, which, if you all recall, was her mainstream breakthrough role. Filmed here on this footbridge for a scene during the evening, and afterwards, Jennifer Lopez spent the night in La Mansión del Rio Hotel to the left of our boat. Spanish floor of the mansion on the river was founded over a century ago in 1853 as the St. Mary's School for Boys, but it became St. Mary's Law School in 1934 and then was purchased by two former students of St. Mary's in 1966, who then restored and reopened it 2 years later in 1968, La Mansión del Rio. If you look at La Mansión del Rio Hotel here, just past it, you'll see this very tall building right up here, whose walls form a very sharp corner, less than 90 degrees. As a result, this tall building up here creates a really awesome little optical illusion along the Riverwalk, where if you sail out from underneath Nogal Street Bridge on the other side, you look way up to the left of the boat from this view. This building here looks like a tall, flat wall about to fall on us. This is the Nix General Hospital right here, founded in 1930 as the first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospital in the entire United States. It also marks where we'll enter into the North Square right up here, otherwise known as the nightlife of the river, all around us here at this point. So this is obviously the place to be for the next few hours. Right in the heart of the North Square is the Hyatt Regency Hotel up in front of our boat above Pressure Street Bridge, which has the Alamo just on the other side of it. As a result, the Hyatt is only 16 floors tall. They deliberately built it that way in 1981 so that it wouldn't cast a shadow on the Alamo during sunset, Though they did reserve room on the bottom river level of the Hyatt for shops, a Paseo de Alamo right up here. Spanish for a passageway to the Alamo, this very beautiful area on the inside that will take you out to right in front of the Alamo, on Alamo Plaza Street, if you continue on straight through there at that point. When you do go out to right in front of the Alamo, just to the right of the Alamo, across the street from it is the Mingo Hotel, which itself at the Mingo Hotel down there is considered the most haunted place in all of San Antonio to this day. Once again, that's the Mingo Hotel, just to the right of the Alamo. Back down here along the river level, then we're going to sail by the old Casino Club building to the right of our boat here, which itself was founded in 1927 as a social club with German immigrants. Now it's home to a Saltgrass Steakhouse restaurant here, however, as well as an apartment complex on the very top, where Lena Huckman used to live. She was the widow of Robert Harvey Harold Huckman, and Robert Harvey Harold Huckman was the architect who designed the entire Riverwalk all around us. This was all his vision right here. Robert Huckman designed this Riverwalk in the late 1920s. He presented his designs for Shops Venegon and Romula, as he originally called it, to city leaders in 1929, hoping to secure funding for the Riverwalk. Sadly, city leaders rejected the proposed Riverwalk, but Robert Huckman, he wasn't going to give up that easily. Throughout the next few years, he was able to gather up some popular support and funding for his vision for a Riverwalk from a variety of sources, including Maury Maverick, a U.S. congressman from San Antonio who was very intrigued by the idea for a Riverwalk, and thus Maury Maverick asked his good friend, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to send the Works Projects Administration down here, which President Roosevelt was reluctant to do at first. In fact, Maury Maverick had to ask him so many times, put so much pressure onto him, so that at one point, it's actually rumored that President Roosevelt said, "Just gave Maury Maverick the money for his damn rivers, but quit bothering me already." And finally, after much pressure, the Works Projects Administration came down here and built the Riverwalk all around us from March 27th of 1939 until March 14th of 1941, just under 2 full years. Though Robert Huckman himself, he's considered the father of the Riverwalk to this day, and right after the Riverwalk was completed, he set up his own office along the Riverwalk, just to the right of our boat on the bottom river level of this last building at the corner here. Well, if you look up on this balcony on street level, you'll even see Robert Huckman's old office sign with his initials, R.H.H. Huckman, followed by AIA, which stands for Architects Institute of America. Robert Huckman set up shop right on the bottom river level here because he wanted to prove that a business could thrive upon the Riverwalk and that it would be a successful commercial district down here. In fact, just 5 years after Robert Huckman set up shop there is when Casa Real then was founded across the street from him to the right of our boat here. Itself the first major and oldest restaurant along the Riverwalk right here. Founded here in 1946 by the Bear family. And despite the best efforts of the Bear family who founded Casa Real, Robert Huckman and others who took part in the Riverwalk, in its early years, it didn't do too well. In fact, crime used to be a huge problem down here. Got so bad that at one point this Riverwalk was even declared off limits to the military because of safety concerns. What actually changed the Riverwalk's luck, made it much safer down here, and as a result more successful to this day, was the World's Fair that our city hosted in 1968. In the years leading up to that World's Fair, the city raised funds in order to help clean out the river, beef up security, and also build this man-made extension of the river, we just entered into right here, which all used to be land here the rest of the way down. The city built the bridges above us on street level and dug it out here underneath them, all the way down to 5 feet below us, so that they could extend the river and the Riverwalk all the way up to the Hemisphere Plaza, which is where that World's Fair took place from April 6th until October 6th of 1968. A good full 6 months, which millions of people came down here to San Antonio, many of whom found their way to the Riverwalk here and thought that it was so beautiful, so that when a lot of them went home, they told all of their friends about the Riverwalk. Their friends came down here, went back home, and told all of their friends, and so on and so on. So that now, thanks to word of mouth since that World's Fair, this Riverwalk to this day is in constant